Norah O'Donnell is in Orlando, Florida, to share more about the upcoming games. I know this is the first time that the games are being held in America. Norah, why is it so important to bring it here?
Well, I think this is part of the plan to bring it across the world that Prince Harry. So started in London 2 years ago, here in Orlando, Florida this year. It will be in Canada 2 years from now, because there are more than 500 athletes from more than 15 different countries who are competing in these games. These are all veterans from around the world. So this is a Paralympic multi-sport event. So it's honoring our veterans and their service, but it's also games. You know what I mean? It is a sport. It is a competition to show that just because of the injuries that they've had, that does not mean that they can't still compete in many of these sports. And I think that's one of the really special things too, is this is about competition. It's about competing at your best, but there's also a camaraderie among many of these soldiers and troops from around the world, because they've all had similar experiences.
Norah, we're all jealous because you get to talk to Prince Harry, clearly the coolest of all the royals, at least for us dudes. I mean, I know probably women around the world love Princess Kate, but he recently told People magazine that, quote, "All I want to do is make my mother incredibly proud." We've also seen him challenging world leaders in sort of a playful social media feud. So how has he helped make the games what they are today?
You know, it's interesting. He has talked about that he wants to make his mother, Princess Diana, proud. Prince Harry was just 12 when his mother passed away, and so he's continuing in the sort of charitable efforts that made her so famous. But this is also personal for him. Remember, he did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, was a helicopter pilot. I mean, he has talked about that he even has flashbacks from his own experience. And I've seen Prince Harry before with our Wounded Warriors. This is genuine for him. I think he understands the service and sacrifice. And I know that in London, from talking to people, he jumps around at all the different events. He has an infectious enthusiasm about him. So I think he understands in many ways what many of these wounded men and women have gone through. They have personal injuries, but I also think, Vlad and Anne-Marie, it's important to point out too, this is an important event too for many of these injured servicemen and women and their families. You know, you always forget that when someone serves in the military, that their families are just as affected as they are. And so for many of these family members to come here and see that that their loved ones have recovered from an injury like an amputation, from the psychological injuries, and to see that they're competing at this level, that's a really joyful event for the family on this long journey toward recovery.
You talked about the camaraderie, and all I keep thinking about is, you know, for us, these are remarkable human beings who have overcome all sorts of odds. But I would think that there's people just like them. They're not that remarkable amongst each other, and there must be something special in that. Did you get a chance to talk to any of the athletes about that?
I did. We talked to a number of the athletes who are competing on the U.S. team, and they made that point exactly, that, you know, here many of the people walking around are in a wheelchair or have an amputated leg or an arm. So in many ways, they share the same experience. They've been through years-long recoveries. They know what it's like to go through different limbs, to go through different stages of recovery, to bounce back from that, to compete in a different sort of way because of their injuries. So that camaraderie is especially important. And then I think the international attention that these games have received, and that the First Lady, Michelle Obama, will be here on Sunday for the opening, that former President George W. Bush will be here, Vice President Joe Biden later in the week. It's a sign, too, that I think this is honoring veterans for the service that they've done, and also cheering them on for recapturing their lives and trying to live their best life. And, you know, Max Roan, who we talked to in that piece, he just said he's in better shape than he's ever been in his entire life. He's a better athlete. He wasn't a good high school athlete. And now he's throwing the discus almost at the same distance, very close to what is the world record.
Wow.
And for the world record all over. So we're talking about competing at a very, very high level.
He was an impressive sailor, Norah, and you as well. You're an ambassador to this year's games.
I am. I'm an ambassador to these games. You know, I'm from a military family. My sister is still in the military and is a surgeon at Walter Reed and takes care of many of our wounded servicemen. So, I know this community well, and it's nice to see them competing in these games, and it's nice to see this long journey and people cheering on and supporting our veterans because they deserve our attention and support.
Yeah, as I watched you talking to Max Rome, I was also impressed when he said that he's in the best shape of his life. And as a former Army guy, I was like, well, can't say go Navy, but and I just have to. There's no other way to put it. Norah O'Donnell.
And think about that too. Many of these athletes too. I mean, Max, for instance, 4 years at Walter Reed, going through 15 different surgeries, the 15th to finally amputate his leg. And then we're talking about months later, then beginning to compete in his first Warrior Games and now the Invictus Games, the bounce back. It was truly remarkable and very impressive.
Yeah, remarkable interview. Norah O'Donnell in Orlando, Florida for us. Thank you so much, Norah.
Thank you, guys.